Massive stone heads stare from an isolated shore, silent witnesses to a forgotten age of exploration. These island monuments hold a secret that rewrites human history. By the end of this journey, you will understand how ancient peoples achieved the impossible, crossing vast oceans long before we believed it was possible. How did they navigate trackless waters to build these colossal structures on the world's most remote islands? And what does their lost knowledge say about our own potential for discovery? What forgotten chapter of human ambition speaks to you the most? You stand before a stone giant, its features weathered by centuries of sea wind, yet its gaze still piercing. This monolithic head rises from the earth on a speck of land in an endless blue desert, thousands of miles from the nearest continent. Its presence here is the heart of the mystery. How did a community with what we assume were simple tools not only cross such a terrifying expanse of open ocean, but also bring the sheer ambition and organization to carve and raise such a colossal figure? This is not a singular puzzle. From the famous moai of Rapa Nui to the mysterious megalithic temples on Mediterranean islands, these stone sentinels are found on the world's most isolated shores. Each one is a permanent declaration in stone, a message from the past that states, "We were here, we crossed this, we built this." Their existence on islands separated by deep, formidable waters points to a single, inescapable conclusion. These cultures possessed a maritime capability far beyond what traditional history has often granted them. The stones themselves pose the silent, relentless question that echoes across the water. How did they do it? To find the answer, we must look past the monuments themselves and toward the tools that conquered the sea. These stone giants did not arrive by chance. Their journey began with vessels of astonishing sophistication, crafted from the very forests that lined their home shores. Ancient shipwrights understood the sea's demands, selecting woods not just for strength but for buoyancy and resilience. They lashed hulls together with cordage made from plant fibers, creating flexible yet incredibly strong joints that could withstand the relentless pounding of ocean waves. This was not the work of people haphazardly tying logs together. It was naval architecture, a deliberate science passed down through generations. One of their most brilliant innovations was the outrigger, a secondary float attached to the main hull. Think of it as a permanent training wheel for a boat, providing a crucial counterbalance against capsizing in rough, unpredictable swells. Then came the sails, vast sheets woven from leaves or bark cloth, designed to catch the wind and transform it into forward motion. This combination allowed for the development of the true workhorse of ancient exploration, the double-hulled canoe. Two parallel hulls connected by a broad platform created a stable, floating base camp. These vessels were colossal, some estimates suggesting they could carry dozens of people, along with their food, water, live plants, and precious tools, for voyages lasting weeks. The proof of their success is etched across the Pacific Ocean in the form of Lapita pottery. Distinctive patterns from this culture appear on island after island, a trail of cultural breadcrumbs left by these master mariners. Each shard is a silent testament to a vessel that successfully completed its journey, carrying not just survivors but an entire way of life. This was a planned, repeatable process of migration. But building a ship capable of crossing an ocean is only half the challenge. You then face an even greater task, navigating a seemingly empty blue expanse without a single landmark in sight. The ocean at night offers no landmarks, only a dome of stars and the rhythmic motion of the vessel beneath you. An ancient navigator would lie in the canoe's hull, eyes fixed on the heavens while their entire body memorized the ocean's pulse. This was a living GPS, a system of guidance not built with satellites or screens, but encoded in human memory and passed down through generations of oral tradition. This profound skill, known as wayfinding, is the second key to unlocking the mystery of the island monuments. It transformed the terrifying emptiness of the open sea into a readable, navigable highway. These master navigators worked with a complex mental atlas. They charted their course by the unwavering rising and setting points of key stars, using them as fixed celestial signposts. But the sky was only part of the map. They learned to interpret the subtle direction of ocean swells, feeling how they reflected off distant islands they could not yet see. They watched for specific birds whose flight patterns at dusk would point the way toward land. They could even read the color and temperature of the water, noting shifts that hinted at unseen shoals or the outflow of rivers from a distant coast. This was not guesswork. It was a science of deep environmental literacy, a seamless connection between the voyager and the world around them. The stunning accuracy of these methods was proven not just by ancient success, but by a modern voyage of rediscovery. The Polynesian voyaging canoe Hagar, using only traditional non-instrument navigation, successfully crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific Ocean. This journey was a powerful testament to the sophisticated knowledge these early cultures possessed. It confirmed that their voyages were not desperate acts of drift, but intentional, planned explorations. They sailed toward the unknown, guided by a conviction that new lands existed, and upon finding them, they began the work that would become their most enduring signature. They transformed these remote shores with colossal stone architecture, a permanent declaration of their arrival. But raising a multi-ton statue requires more than just strong backs. It demands a social engine of incredible coordination and purpose. The sheer scale of ambition on Rapa Nui is almost incomprehensible. Imagine the collective effort required to carve a single multi-ton statue from the volcanic rock of the Rano quarry. Now multiply that by nearly 900. This was not the work of a handful of people, but a complex society operating with a shared vision and remarkable social coordination. How did they move these stone giants across the island to their final coastal platforms? The debate over their transport is a window into their ingenuity. One compelling theory suggests the moai were walked, carefully rocked and tilted from side to side by teams using ropes, creating a slow, deliberate, and upright procession. Another proposes a system of log rollers, a sledge's pathway that would have consumed vast quantities of timber. Both methods reveal a deep understanding of physics and an ability to mobilize and organize a large labor force. This level of project management in such profound isolation speaks to a society that was not just surviving, but thriving with a powerful cultural drive. Their entire identity became intertwined with the creation and placement of these ancestral figures, a permanent connection to their past and their gods. Yet, this very focus may have contributed to the island's later hardships, as resources were dedicated to this monumental endeavor. The story of Rapa Nui is a profound lesson in both the heights of human achievement and the delicate balance required to sustain a society on a remote island. It shows us that the capability to reach a new world is one thing, but the wisdom to live within its means is another challenge entirely. And this pattern of incredible maritime skill followed by monumental construction is not unique to the Pacific. Far across the globe, another island culture was undertaking its own stone revolution, building temples that defy time. While the moai of Rapa Nui stand in isolated grandeur, an even older stone mystery rises from the Mediterranean Sea. On the sun-baked islands of Malta, the Gewith, dot above Gantaja temples confront us with a staggering reality. These colossal structures of limestone slab are the oldest free-standing stone buildings on our planet, older than Stonehenge, older even than the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Their presence on this small archipelago is a declaration carved in stone, a testament to a Neolithic people who were not simple farmers, but masters of the sea. To establish a society capable of such architectural ambition, they first had to conquer the open water. The voyage from Sicily to Malta spans over 50 miles of open sea, a formidable challenge for any age. These early mariners did not just cross this barrier once by chance. They made the journey repeatedly, transporting not only families but also their entire way of life across the waves. They brought the first domesticated animals to the islands: sheep, goats, and cattle, all carried on their sturdy vessels. They transported critical resources like flint for tools and the very stones that would become their temples. This was not a one-time exodus. It was a sustained maritime lifeline, a constant flow of people, ideas, and materials that fueled a cultural flowering in profound isolation. The temples themselves, like Hagar, are marvels of prehistoric engineering. Their walls were built using the corbel technique, where each layer of stone slightly overlaps the one below, creating soaring, curved chambers without a single column for support. Inside, intricate spiral carvings adorn the altars, a symbolic language hinting at a complex spiritual world. Such sophistication could only be born from a stable, confident society, a society whose foundation was its ability to sail. The existence of these temples on Malta fundamentally rewrites a chapter of our shared history. It shatters the assumption that megalithic construction was a purely land-based phenomenon confined to continental Europe. Instead, it points to a network of interconnected seafaring cultures, their boats serving as the internet of the ancient world, carrying architectural concepts and shared beliefs across the blue expanse of the Mediterranean. These island monuments from the Pacific to this inland sea share a common origin. They are the ultimate proof of concept, the final product of a journey that began with a vessel cutting through the waves and a navigator reading the stars. The true scale of human ambition is not always found on solid ground. Wade through the murky waters of a Pohnpei mangrove swamp, and the horizon transforms into a city of stone. This is Nan Madol, a Venice of the Pacific, a labyrinth of nearly 100 artificial islets built directly upon a living coral reef. Its foundations are not earth, but colossal logs of prismatic basalt, each one a geometric wonder quarried from the island's interior. The sheer volume of stone moved here is almost beyond comprehension. An estimated 1 million tons of rock carefully stacked to create canals and courtyards in the sea. This was more than a settlement. It was a complete reimagining of the coastline, a ceremonial center willed into existence. How do you move multi-ton stones across miles of water without metal tools, wheels, or even pulleys? The engineering puzzle is immense. Local oral histories speak of magicians who levitated the stones with the power of sound, a poetic explanation for a feat that seems to defy logic. The reality, however, is far more impressive than any magic. It was the product of a highly organized society with a masterful understanding of maritime engineering. They likely used a fleet of large outrigger canoes or lashed-together rafts, leveraging the buoyancy of the water to transport their incredible cargo. Teams would have worked in perfect coordination, timing their efforts with the tides to float the massive basalt logs into position. This was not a single act of construction, but a sustained, multi-generational project that transformed the very fabric of the environment. Nan Madol stands as a breathtaking monument to the power of collective will, proving that these island cultures were not just passengers on their landscapes, but active, brilliant architects who reshaped their world to match their vision. Our historical maps are often drawn with thick, unbroken lines between continents, depicting ancient worlds isolated from one another. But what if those lines were not walls, but faint, shimmering pathways, traveled by a few bold voyagers long before the history books say it was possible? This is the provocative realm of transoceanic contact theories, a field that challenges the very idea of complete isolation. It suggests that the oceans were not just empty voids, but potential connectors for cultures separated by unimaginable distances. The most compelling evidence for this comes from the humble sweet potato. This staple crop, native to South America, was found across Polynesia when European explorers first arrived. Its name in many Polynesian languages, kumara, is strikingly similar to its name in some Andean languages. How did a South American plant become a fundamental food source on islands thousands of miles away, unless people carried it there? Similarly, chicken bones found on the coast of Chile have been genetically linked to poultry from Polynesia, not Europe. These are not just random artifacts. They are biological breadcrumbs hinting at a moment of contact, a shared meal, or a deliberate exchange between two ancient seafaring worlds. This idea pushes the boundaries of conventional history, forcing a re-evaluation of what these master navigators were truly capable of achieving. Were their voyages confined to the Pacific, or did some, carried by winds and currents, accidentally or intentionally, make landfall on the shores of another world entirely? Other theories propose even earlier connections, like the possibility of Phoenician traders, the merchant kings of the Mediterranean, venturing beyond the Pillars of Hercules and across the Atlantic. While the evidence for this remains highly debated and lacks the concrete proof of the Polynesian links, the very possibility compels us to think bigger. It asks us to consider a more interconnected ancient world, where maritime technology and human courage occasionally bridged the greatest divides. Examining this evidence is not about rewriting history with certainty, but about opening our minds to a more dynamic and complex human story. It forces us to look at the common threads in monument construction worldwide, not as coincidences, but as potential echoes of shared ideas carried across the waves. When we see pyramids on opposite sides of the globe or similar astronomical alignments in stone, we are left to wonder, were these universal expressions of the human mind, or could some of these ideas have traveled, passed from one seafaring culture to another, seeding inspiration across the planet? This perspective does not diminish the unique achievements of any single culture. Instead, it paints a picture of a more adventurous and connected human family, whose greatest explorers may have set sail into the unknown, their stories lost to time, but their potential legacy written in the stones they left behind. Side by side, the structures speak a silent, common language. A Polynesian moai, a Maltese temple, and a Mesoamerican pyramid share a family resemblance that is difficult to ignore. Each is built from colossal stone blocks fitted together with breathtaking precision. Each is oriented to capture the sun on a solstice or track the path of a significant star. Each served as a ceremonial platform, a sacred space where community and cosmos met. Seeing them together forces a fundamental question. Are we looking at the independent genius of humanity, different cultures arriving at the same brilliant solution to honor their gods, or could there be a connection, a thread of shared knowledge carried across the oceans by ancient sailors? This is the puzzle of convergent evolution versus diffusion. In biology, convergent evolution explains how unrelated species, like a shark and a dolphin, develop similar fins to navigate the same aquatic environment. Could the same principle apply to culture? Did societies around the world, facing similar spiritual needs and social challenges, naturally arrive at megalithic architecture as the ultimate expression of their power and beliefs? The alternative is a story of contact. The core technologies of these seafaring cultures, the outrigger canoe and the woven sail, were more than just transportation. They were the most advanced information networks of their time. What if the concept of building with monumental stone was not invented in one place, but was an idea that traveled, a spark carried from one island to another by navigators who shared more than just goods? They shared a vision of what a society could build. The evidence is circumstantial yet compelling. We see the same understanding of massive weight distribution, the same celestial alignments echoing in stone from one hemisphere to the next. This does not diminish the unique achievements of any culture. Instead, it suggests a world where innovation could sail, where a powerful new way of shaping the world could spread with the currents, adapted and refined by each culture that embraced it. This global perspective pushes us to look deeper, beyond the how of their voyages, to the most profound question of all. What powerful force compelled them to leave the safety of their shores and sail toward an empty horizon in the first place? The decision to launch a canoe into the open ocean was perhaps the most profound gamble a community could take. Stand on that shore for a moment, looking out at a horizon that holds no promise of land, only the vast and unpredictable sea. What inner force could possibly overcome the paralyzing fear of the unknown? The answer is not a single reason, but a powerful storm of pressures and aspirations. On islands with limited land and resources, population growth could create an undeniable pressure, a slow-burning need for new space. Perhaps a younger son, seeing no future on his crowded home island, would gather followers and set his sights on the legendary islands whispered about in old stories. The quest for vital resources was another powerful engine. A single volcanic island might hold a prized deposit of obsidian, a glass-like stone sharper than any metal for making tools. This material could become the center of a vast trade network, fueling voyages not of migration, but of commerce and connection, linking distant archipelagos in a web of exchange. Sometimes the push was not from scarcity, but from conflict. Political rivalries or deep disagreements over sacred practices could force a faction to leave, choosing the peril of the ocean over the strife at home. Their voyage became a search for a place where they could build their society according to their own beliefs, free from the old disputes. Woven through all these practical reasons was the timeless human spirit of discovery, the innate curiosity to see what lies beyond the next wave. This was coupled with a profound spiritual pull. Many of these cultures carried oral histories of an ancestral homeland, a great island lost to the distant past. The ocean was not a barrier to this place, but the pathway back to it. Their voyages were therefore acts of spiritual return, navigated by the stars and fueled by the conviction that they were sailing toward a destiny promised by their ancestors. These monuments we find on remote shores are the final period at the end of a long and perilous sentence. They are not merely statues or temples. They are the ultimate expression of that complex journey, a physical declaration born from necessity, courage, and an unshakable belief that something greater lay across the horizon. A star path is not just a line in the sky, but a story passed from a grandparent to a child. The greatest library of ancient seafaring knowledge was not built of stone, but of memory. These cultures perfected the art of oral tradition, weaving vital survival data into the very fabric of their myths and chants. A creation story was more than a spiritual account, it was a nautical database. The epic Cumulipo chant of Hawaii, for instance, is a profound genealogical narrative that also meticulously catalogues the emergence of sea life and the natural world, embedding an intimate understanding of the marine environment essential for any voyage. Similarly, the rich Dreamtime stories of Aboriginal Australia map the entire continent in intricate detail. describing water sources, animal migrations, and land formations, forming a sacred and practical guide to the landscape. These were not casual campfire tales. They were sophisticated mnemonic devices, engineered over generations to preserve and transmit complex information with perfect accuracy. A single song could encode the star compass for a specific route, naming the succession of constellations that would rise and set over a target island. A hero's legend might describe the unique swell patterns that cradled a distant archipelago, or the specific birds that nested there. The rhythm and melody of the chant made the information unforgettable, turning a trainee navigator into a living repository of geographic knowledge. This was the software running on the hardware of their advanced vessels. Without these stories, the most perfectly crafted canoe was just a piece of driftwood. By learning to read these myths as historical records, we can sometimes trace ancient pathways. A recurring character's journey across the sea roads in legend might mirror the actual migration route of the people themselves, preserving the identity of the first explorers who dared to sail into the blue unknown. This oral technology ensured that crucial discovery was never truly lost, surviving solely in the human mind, ready to guide the next generation toward the horizon. The silent witnesses to these epic voyages were not only made of stone, they were also made of leaf, fur, and seed. To truly understand the scale of ancient maritime movement, we must become ecological detectives, reading the stories written in the very soil and the creatures that inhabit these islands. The distribution of certain plants and animals across the vast Pacific forms a biological map of human migration, a trail of evidence that could not exist without the canoe. Consider the humble Pacific rat. This specific rodent is found on nearly every island settled by Polynesian peoples, yet it is not a natural swimmer. It could never have crossed thousands of miles of ocean on its own. Its presence is a direct stowaway signature of human arrival, traveling in the holds of those great double-hulled vessels. Similarly, the coconut palm and the breadfruit tree became staples of island life, but they did not drift there by chance. Their seeds, carefully carried and cultivated, transformed entire landscapes, creating living larders that sustained new settlements. This was a deliberate transportation of an entire ecosystem. Scientists in the fields of archaeobotany and zooarchaeology meticulously pieced together this puzzle. By analyzing ancient pollen samples, charred seeds in long-cooled cooking fires, and the bones of animals found in early settlement layers, they can trace the precise paths of these commensal species, the plants and animals that live in close association with humans. This biological evidence provides a powerful, independent line of corroboration for the oral histories and the monumental architecture. It confirms that the voyages were not isolated events, but a sustained, purposeful expansion that intentionally carried the means for survival across the sea. This human footprint, however, also left a more complex legacy. The arrival of people and their accompanying species often triggered a profound transformation of these isolated island worlds, sometimes with unintended consequences. The introduction of new animals could disrupt delicate ecosystems that had evolved in isolation for millennia. This ecological shift is a poignant, double-edged marker of humanity's reach. It speaks to our incredible capability to navigate and settle the globe, while also reminding us of the deep and lasting impact we have on the environments we enter. These living clues, from the rat to the breadfruit, tell a story just as monumental as the stone heads, a narrative of survival, adaptation, and the enduring biological signature of our seafaring ancestors. The intricate patterns pressed into the clay are more than decoration, they are a signature. This is Lapita pottery, the indelible mark of the Pacific's first great explorers. For over 3,000 years, these ceramic shards have rested in the soil of islands stretching from the coast of Papua New Guinea to the far reaches of Samoa. Each fragment is a piece of the same story, a trail of cultural breadcrumbs left behind by the Lapita people during one of history's most astonishing human expansions. Their journey was a rapid burst across an ocean realm, a colonization of thousands of islands that were, until their arrival, utterly untouched by humanity. They did not drift aimlessly, they sailed with purpose, carrying a complete cultural package in their canoes. Alongside their signature pottery, they brought domesticated pigs and chickens, cultivated crops like taro and yam, and a sophisticated toolkit of shell and stone. This was not a desperate flight, but a deliberate transfer of an entire way of life across the sea. Wherever they made landfall, they established settlements, and their distinct pottery style became the calling card of their presence, a unifying thread across a vast seascape. The sheer speed and scale of their expansion is the ultimate proof of their maritime mastery. Within just a few centuries, they navigated and settled islands scattered across thousands of miles of open ocean. This achievement stands as a direct challenge to any notion that early peoples were confined to coastlines. The Lapita were the foundational culture, the ancestral root from which the later Polynesian, Micronesian, and Melanesian societies would eventually grow and differentiate. Their success proves that the capability for long-distance, two-way voyaging was not a later development, but was present at the very dawn of humanity's epic journey into the Pacific. The potsherds they left behind are quiet, yet they speak volumes, telling a story of unparalleled seafaring courage that permanently reshaped the human map of our world. Yet the evidence we find on dry land is only a fraction of the story. Our planet's geography was not always as it appears on modern maps. As the great ice sheets of the last glacial period melted, they released an immense volume of water, causing global sea levels to rise by over 100 meters. This was not a slow, gentle process, but a dramatic reshaping of the world's coastlines that unfolded over millennia. Vast, low-lying continental shelves that were once dry, habitable land vanished beneath the waves. These submerged landscapes are the missing pieces in the puzzle of early maritime history. Imagine a world where the North Sea was not a sea at all, but a sprawling, fertile plain known as Doggerland, a land bridge connecting the British Isles to mainland Europe. This was not a barren tundra, but a rich environment of hills, forests, and rivers, teeming with life and, archaeologists believe, home to thriving communities of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. These people were not landlocked. They lived along ancient coastlines and river systems that are now deep under the North Sea, developing the boats and fishing technologies that were the direct precursors to open ocean vessels. Their world and the evidence of their seafaring ingenuity now lies buried beneath the sediment of the seafloor. The same transformation occurred across the globe. In Southeast Asia, the Sunda Shelf formed a vast exposed peninsula, connecting many of the islands of Indonesia to the Asian mainland. This expansive region, now submerged, would have been a natural laboratory for early maritime experimentation. Coastal communities here had access to a wealth of marine resources and diverse materials for building watercraft. Their gradual adaptation to a life intimately connected to the sea would have provided the essential knowledge and skills required for their descendants to eventually launch into the deep Pacific. The search for these lost lands is one of archaeology's greatest challenges. Using advanced technologies like sonar mapping and core sampling, scientists are now beginning to chart these drowned worlds, searching for the faint outlines of ancient river channels, campsites, and even stone tools on the ocean floor. Each potential discovery suggests that our current timeline for human seafaring is incomplete. The true pioneers, the first ones to push off from the shore and navigate significant bodies of water, may have lived on coastlines that no longer exist. Their stories and their earliest boats are likely preserved not in museum cases, but under dozens of meters of water, waiting for the day we can read the history written on the seafloor itself. The salt-crusted hull of the Hokulea finally kisses the sand of a distant island, a moment of triumph echoing across centuries. This was not a scene from a documentary, but a living experiment, a modern vessel built with ancient knowledge successfully completing a journey many had dismissed as myth. This is the power of experimental archaeology, a field that moves beyond dusty artifacts to test history with our own hands. The most famous of these endeavors was the Kon-Tiki expedition, where a balsa wood raft sailed from South America to Polynesia, demonstrating that such a journey was possible with the currents. But the Hokulea project went even further. It was not just about whether a boat could float across an ocean, but whether a navigator could find a specific, tiny island in that vastness without any modern instruments. The success of its voyages provided irrefutable physical proof. It validated the oral traditions and star charts that had been preserved for generations, transforming them from poetic legend into a practical, repeatable science. The crews on these replica voyages experienced the challenges firsthand: the relentless sun, the search for fresh water, the constant mental focus required to read the subtle language of the sea. They lived the reality that ancient navigators would have faced, not as a theory in a book, but as a visceral, demanding truth. This hands-on approach bridges a profound gap, allowing us to feel a fraction of the exhaustion and the ultimate exhilaration of those first explorers. It turns abstract capability into tangible reality, proving that the monuments we find on the most remote shores were not accidents of drift, but the deliberate achievements of masters of the ocean. A society capable of moving mountains of stone was first a society capable of moving human hearts and minds. The true monument was not the final statue placed upon its platform, but the invisible social engine that conceived of it, organized for it, and sustained the effort across decades. To carve a single multi-ton moai on Rapa Nui required not just a mason with a stone pounder, but an entire ecosystem of specialized roles. There were the quarry workers who understood the volcanic tuff, identifying flawless sections of rock. There were the artisans who carved the features with meticulous care. There were the engineers who devised the transport system, and the teams of laborers who pulled the ropes. Then there were the sailors who maintained the fishing fleets, the farmers who cultivated the sweet potato in carefully managed gardens, and the cooks who prepared the food that fed this entire non-farming workforce. This intricate division of labor points to a highly stratified society, one with clear leadership capable of planning for a future they would never see. Such long-term vision required more than just a chief giving orders. It demanded a shared ideology, a powerful common belief that gave meaning to the back-breaking work. The statues themselves were not merely art, they were the physical form of that belief. They were ancestral figures, believed to hold supernatural power or mana that would protect and bless the community. Carving and erecting them was a sacred duty, a communal act of devotion that ensured cosmic order and social harmony. This spiritual conviction was the fuel that powered the social machine. It transformed a massive logistical undertaking from a chore into a holy mission, uniting thousands of people under a single, transcendent purpose. The ability to coordinate this effort over generations reveals a culture of remarkable resilience and shared identity. The stones stand, therefore, as a testament to two equally profound human achievements: the engineering genius to shape them, and the social genius to unite a people in their creation. The same stars that crowned their sacred temples also steered their canoes through the night. Gaze upward from the center of a stone circle on a remote Pacific atoll, or stand at the entrance of a Maltese temple, and you are not just looking at an ancient building. You are standing inside a sophisticated astronomical instrument, engineered in stone. Its doorways and aligned monoliths act as a permanent gun sight, framing the precise point on the horizon where the sun would rise on the summer solstice, or where a significant star would first appear after a long absence. This was not a casual observance. It was the product of generations of meticulous sky watching, a deep, accumulated knowledge of the cyclical rhythms of the cosmos. This celestial wisdom was as practical as it was profound. A calendar built in stone was the very engine of their society. It told them when to plant their crops, when to harvest, and when to prepare for the seasonal rains. But most critically for a seafaring people, it told them when to sail. The ocean has its seasons too, with periods of treacherous storms and windows of calm, predictable winds. Knowing the exact timing of these windows was a matter of life and death. The same temple that marked the winter solstice was, in effect, issuing a maritime bulletin, signaling the opening of the annual voyaging season. The intimate connection between the cosmos, the calendar, and the canoe becomes breathtakingly clear. The star cluster known as the Pleiades, for example, held immense significance across many of these cultures. Its helical rising, its first appearance in the dawn sky after a period of invisibility, often coincided with the start of the new year and the beginning of the longest, most dangerous ocean voyages. A navigator memorizing the star path to a new island would have first learned that sequence by observing it from the courtyard of his community's temple, the stone pillars mirroring the star patterns he needed to follow. The monument was a training ground, a static simulator of the dynamic sky road he would later travel. This shared language of the heavens created a powerful, unifying thread. It linked the spiritual authority of the priests who maintained the temple calendar with the practical skill of the navigators who relied on its predictions. It connected the community safe on shore with their explorers far at sea, all under the same predictable dome of stars. The silent stones aligned with the heavens were not just places of worship. They were the command centers for an age of exploration, ensuring that every journey into the blue unknown began with the best possible chance of success. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone echoed not from a lonely quarry, but from a bustling island port. On a Cycladic shore, a ship from Crete unloads elegant pottery, while another from Anatolia offers its cargo of gleaming copper ingots. In return, the local craftsmen trade their most precious resource, razor-sharp blades of volcanic glass known as obsidian. This was the beating heart of the Bronze Age Mediterranean, a vibrant maritime marketplace that transformed the sea from a barrier into a highway. The great stone monuments we find on these islands were not isolated acts of devotion. They were central hubs in a vast and sophisticated economic network. Their very existence was underwritten by this flow of trade. The wealth generated from exchanging obsidian, metals, and exotic goods funded the ambitious projects, paying for the specialized laborers and the resources their home island might lack. A community could now import the finest stone working tools or rare decorative materials, elevating their local temple into something grander, something designed to impress not just the gods, but also their trading partners. This reliable maritime travel meant that more than just goods were circulating. A new pottery style from Crete could inspire an artist on a distant island. An innovative metalworking technique from the mainland could be shared and adapted in a single generation. Ideas and technologies sailed alongside cargo, cross-pollinating cultures at a remarkable speed. This constant interaction turned the entire Mediterranean and other island-dotted seas like it into a single, interactive cultural zone. It proves that maritime capability was about more than just finding new land. It was about weaving a web of connection that created an interdependent world. The monuments stand as silent testaments to this ancient globalization, their foundations built as much on trade routes as they were on stone. This ocean-centric world fundamentally reshaped the human spirit. For these cultures, the sea was not a terrifying void at the edge of the world. It was their central highway, their provider, and their defining challenge. To willingly embark on a voyage across thousands of miles of open water required a psychology almost unimaginable to us today. It demanded a profound acceptance of risk, a deep-seated resilience to withstand storms and thirst, and an incredible tolerance for the unknown. What kind of person looks at a featureless horizon and sees not an end but a beginning? This was not a mindset born of desperation, but of confident skill and an unshakable belief in their own abilities. This seafaring identity would have permeated every aspect of their society. Their gods were not of the mountains, but of the wind and waves. Their art echoed the curves of canoes and the patterns of ocean swells. Their most revered heroes were not warriors who conquered other people, but navigators who conquered distance itself. The stories of these ancestral explorers were the bedrock of their culture, recited to inspire each new generation. These narratives were not just tales of adventure, they were lessons in courage, reinforcing the collective identity of a people who dared what others could not. The great stone monuments are the physical manifestation of this victorious spirit. Each moai facing the sea is not just an ancestor watching over the clan, it is a declaration. It states, "We faced the immense, unpredictable power of the ocean, and we won. We crossed this, we mastered this, we belong to this." The stones are a permanent anchor for their pride, a collective memory carved in rock to forever commemorate their mastery over the most formidable element on Earth. This psychological triumph is perhaps their greatest legacy, a testament to a worldview where the horizon was always an invitation. The ocean's moods are written in the ice. Deep within the glaciers of Greenland and Antarctica, tiny air bubbles trapped for millennia hold a precise record of our planet's ancient atmosphere. By analyzing the chemistry of these frozen time capsules, scientists can reconstruct past temperatures and even trace the strength of long-vanished winds. This paleoclimate data reveals a stunning correlation. The great pulses of human migration across the Pacific often align perfectly with windows of stable, favorable weather. When the trade winds blew with consistency and predictable strength, they created a reliable highway across the sea. A navigator setting sail during these periods could trust that the wind that filled his sail one week would still be there the next, guiding his vessel on a steady course toward the horizon. These were not just journeys of courage, they were voyages perfectly timed with the planet's natural rhythms. Conversely, climate could also provide a powerful push. A prolonged drought on a home island, a period of scarce resources and social tension, would have made the gamble of a long voyage seem like the only rational choice. The ocean, for all its dangers, became a potential escape from an untenable situation on land. This dual role of climate, as both a beckoning gateway and a forcing hand, adds a critical layer to our understanding. The colonization of the Pacific was not a random, haphazard scattering of people. It was a sophisticated, strategic response to environmental change. These master navigators were not just reading the stars and the swells, they were interpreting the long-term patterns of their world, waiting for the right moment to unleash their ambitions upon the sea. Their story demonstrates a profound resilience. an ability to adapt their incredible skills to the opportunities and challenges presented by a dynamic planet. In an age of our own environmental shifts, their legacy offers a powerful lesson in observation, timing, and the enduring human capacity to navigate a changing world. That same star compass, once memorized by a master navigator lying in his canoe, now finds its echo in the silent orbit of a GPS satellite. Both systems solve the same fundamental human problem. They answer the question, "Where am I?" by triangulating a position against fixed points in the heavens. One uses the eternal dance of stars, the other a constellation of human-made signals, but the underlying principle of celestial navigation remains unchanged. This ancient legacy is not confined to our technology. It lives and breathes in the cultural heart of island nations, where the ocean is not a boundary but a central character in their story. For the people of Polynesia, the sea is their ancestor, their highway, and their identity. This deep connection was nearly severed by centuries of outside influence, but the revival of traditional voyaging has sparked a powerful cultural renaissance. When the Hokulea completed its first voyage, it was not just a nautical success. It was a reawakening. Young people who had grown up disconnected from this part of their history suddenly saw their ancestors not as primitive islanders, but as the greatest explorers on the planet. The knowledge of the star paths, once on the brink of vanishing, is now being taught in schools, reconnecting a new generation with a proud and powerful heritage. This reclaimed identity inspires modern voyagers to sail with a purpose beyond adventure. They become messengers for ocean conservation, using their journeys to highlight the fragility of the marine environment their ancestors so revered. The story of these early mariners resonates with anyone who has ever looked at a horizon and felt a pull toward the unknown. Their achievements stand as a permanent testament to human ingenuity and courage, proving that the most formidable barriers are often conquered not by force, but by knowledge, patience, and an unshakable belief in what lies beyond. The idea of ancient explorers as primitive castaways, clinging to logs and washing up on distant shores by pure luck, is a story we must leave behind. This persistent myth fundamentally misunderstands the evidence laid out by these silent stone witnesses. The monuments themselves are the ultimate rebuttal, demanding we see their creators not as accidental survivors, but as master planners. Consider the logistics. You do not carve a 900th multi-ton statue on a remote island if you are a desperate, starving group of refugees who just happen to drift there. You do not transport the foundational stones for a city like Nan Madol across miles of open water on a flimsy raft. These were acts of profound cultural confidence, undertaken by societies that knew exactly how to get there, and more importantly, how to return. The sheer repetition of this pattern across the globe, from the Mediterranean to the Pacific, proves it was a repeatable, deliberate process. The myth of the primitive vessel is shattered by the reality of the double-hulled canoe, a stable ocean-going platform capable of carrying an entire community and its resources for weeks. The myth of haphazard navigation is dismantled by the sophisticated mental star charts of the wayfinders, a science so precise it could guide a modern replica canoe to a pinpoint island. And the outdated notion that such journeys were simply impossible is silenced by the biological evidence, the trail of pottery, and the living descendants who continue these traditions today. These voyages were the ancient equivalent of a space program, requiring generations of accumulated knowledge, specialized skills, and a unified societal will. They were not accidents of nature, but triumphs of human intellect and courage. This reframing is not just about historical accuracy. It challenges a deeper, lingering bias that equates technological complexity with intelligence, and wrongly assumes that societies without written records or metal tools were incapable of grand, coordinated achievement. The truth is far more inspiring. Our ancestors looked upon the trackless ocean and saw not a barrier but a pathway, and they built the vessels, the knowledge, and the monuments to prove it. A single stone tool reveals very little on its own, but place it beside a shard of pottery, a genetic sample, and a core sample from the ocean floor, and it begins to speak a fuller truth. Unraveling the epic of ancient seafaring is not a task for one kind of scientist, but for a coalition of experts, each holding a different piece of the same immense puzzle. The archaeologist may excavate the foundation of a temple, carefully mapping its stones. The linguist, meanwhile, listens for the echoes of ancient words, tracing how the word for sea or star shifts subtly from one island language to the next, revealing a trail of shared ancestry across the water. A geneticist can analyze modern DNA from island populations, uncovering the deep, branching paths of human migration encoded in our very cells. These paths often align perfectly with the linguistic and archaeological evidence, creating a powerful, multi-stranded confirmation of the oral histories. Another crucial piece comes from the botanist who studies the ancient pollen trapped in lakebed sediments, identifying which plants arrived with human settlers and when. The oceanographer contributes charts of ancient sea levels and current patterns, showing the possible, and sometimes the most probable, routes those first canoes would have taken. Even the stone of the monuments themselves can be geologically sourced, pinpointing the exact quarry it came from, sometimes revealing trade networks that spanned hundreds of miles of open ocean. No single field holds the entire story. The true picture only emerges when these disparate lines of evidence converge, when the linguistic family tree matches the genetic one, and both are supported by the artifacts found in the ground. This interdisciplinary approach transforms speculation into a robust, evidence-based narrative. It is the scientific equivalent of wayfinding, using multiple celestial guides to triangulate a position on the vast ocean of the past, ensuring we are not drifting toward a myth, but sailing firmly toward a more complete understanding of human courage and capability. A stone giant's silent gaze holds a different meaning for the descendant who recognizes an ancestor than it does for the scientist who sees a data point. This divergence lies at the heart of a profound ethical shift now reshaping archaeology. For generations, these monuments were treated primarily as artifacts to be excavated, measured, and interpreted by outsiders, their stories told from a purely academic perspective. But a deeper responsibility is coming to the fore, one that recognizes these stones are not merely relics of a dead past. For indigenous communities across the Pacific and beyond, these sites are living, breathing parts of their cultural and spiritual identity, places where history and present-day belief are inextricably linked. The question is no longer just what we can learn from these monuments, but how we can learn from them respectfully, in partnership with the people whose heritage they represent. This has given rise to a new model of collaborative archaeology, where research projects are designed from the very beginning with the guidance and participation of community elders and knowledge keepers. It means indigenous oral histories are not dismissed as myth, but valued as valid historical records that can guide scientific inquiry. It ensures that sacred sites are approached with appropriate protocols, and that discoveries are shared in a way that strengthens rather than undermines cultural continuity. This partnership enriches the narrative for everyone. A scientific analysis might determine the mineral composition of a stone tool, but a community elder can explain its ceremonial significance, transforming an object in a museum case into a key that unlocks a worldview. The story of early maritime capability is far more than a technical puzzle about boat design and star paths. It is the origin story of living cultures, a narrative of resilience and identity that continues to inspire pride today. Telling this story with integrity means listening as much as we speak, ensuring that the voices of those whose ancestors carved the stones are the ones who ultimately give them their true and lasting meaning. The ocean floor holds libraries of lost stories, and we are only now learning how to read them. The future of maritime archaeology is not confined to dry land or shallow waters, but is plunging into the abyss with a new generation of robotic explorers. Autonomous underwater vehicles glide silently through the deep, their sonar eyes mapping vast stretches of the seabed in stunning detail, searching for the faint outline of a hull or a scattered cargo of amphorae that mark an ancient shipwreck. These deep-sea sites preserved in cold, dark water are time capsules of unparalleled richness. They could hold the actual remains of those sophisticated voyaging canoes, their construction techniques frozen in time, waiting to reveal their final voyage. Meanwhile, on the surface, another revolution is unfolding in the laboratory. Advanced DNA sequencing allows us to extract genetic stories from the most fragile of remains, from the bones of ancient Pacific voyagers to the residues inside a cooking pot. By analyzing this genetic data, we can trace the precise relationships between island populations, reconstructing the timing and direction of migration waves with a precision that was once pure speculation. We can learn who they were, where they came from, and how they mixed and adapted to new environments. This biological evidence, combined with linguistic and archaeological data, is weaving a tapestry of human movement more detailed than ever before. And from the sky, LiDAR technology pierces through dense jungle canopies, digitally stripping away the vegetation to reveal the ghostly footprints of human settlement on the earth below. This has already led to the discovery of vast, unknown cities in Mesoamerica and Cambodia, and it holds the same promise for islands across the Pacific and Mediterranean. We might soon find the overgrown foundations of the very first landing sites, the initial camps established by the first explorers to set foot on a pristine shore. Each of these technological advances acts as a new key, unlocking a different door to the past. The coming decades will not simply add new facts to the history books, they will fundamentally reshape our understanding of the ancient world. The most astonishing discoveries are still out there, lying in the deep sea, hidden in the jungle, or encoded in ancient DNA, each one poised to deepen our awe for the incredible capabilities of our seafaring ancestors. These stone faces and pillars are no longer isolated riddles, but connected points on a grand map of human courage. The story they tell is one of sophisticated integration, a seamless fusion of technology, astronomy, and social will. The true vessel was not just the canoe, but the society that built it, the culture that charted its course, and the shared belief that propelled it forward. This revised history asks us to look at our ancestors with new eyes, to see them not as primitive figures confined to their shores, but as the most intrepid explorers of their age, masters of the planet's greatest wilderness. Their legacy is a timeless reminder that the human drive to explore, to connect across vast distances, and to leave a lasting mark is as deep and enduring as the sea itself. We would love to hear which of these incredible monuments speaks most powerfully to you. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey, subscribe for more explorations into the deepest mysteries of our shared past.